That one and that one. Great. Welcome everyone to episode 2 of AirHeads. It was great. We had a great reception, or it was received well last week. So it was good that we had a few people that were able to come along, and then there's been a few people that have watched it since, which is great. So just a reminder that we are recording, and so it's one of the things that is really helpful to record for several reasons. One is obviously people that can't make it right at this time are able to catch up on it. Often when we get really technical, it's really helpful to be able to go back and watch and to, see a screen share or something where someone did something, to be able to go back and review that is another reason. And we've also heard that there's been some people at events there that have been looking in as well, and so it doesn't hurt for them to be able to hear what we've been chatting about. So that's really cool. A quick reminder, if you didn't see last week, for people that are with us now, just some of those guidelines that we keep our conversation and our language family friendly and respectful, that we hold off on talking about politics and religion. We'll keep it all very focused around Events Air and events in general. We avoid talking about contracts with Events Air, contracts with our clients, things like that. In fact, the privacy is the last one, and specifically around screen sharing, because sometimes we will want to screen share and say, hey, how do we do this and whatever. So just consider that carefully before you do that, as to whether you're revealing a client or attendee data or anything like that. So have a think about that. But also just in general, there's really no need to share event names, client names, anything like that. I think we can all just talk in general terms, and I think it works well. We'll talk about an event that has 50 people coming along, and we'll talk about events that have 3,000 people coming along. That gives us probably the context that we need. We don't have to talk about the events themselves. Sweet. That's got that out of the way. The key thing that we talk about is that everyone kind of starts thinking about what are the questions or topics or things that you would like to talk about. We keep a couple of things up our sleeve if there isn't any of those topics. But the first thing that we would do is kind of throw it out to anyone that's come along as to whether there's something that you're playing around with or wrestling with, or a topic that you would like to talk about. So I open it to the floor as to whether there's anything. We can really start naming names at this point. Anyone?
So don't be shy. If anyone's got anything that they want to raise that they've been grappling with, the challenge, or something that's exciting that's happened, that they've had a new discovery, anything that you want to share, top of the session today, we'd love to hear it. Jump in.
There will come a time.
There will come a time.
I heard a rumor that we're talking about abstracts, so I was like, I'm all in. Let's go.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice. Sarah, totally. That is the sort of hot topic I wanted to go through today, which I said to Grant, you could talk for a day on it, but we can certainly.
Can you extend the meeting?
There's a lot to delve into. So if no one else has anything else pressing that they want to go into, I would love to delve into it. And then hopefully it will open up the floor, because I think there's a lot of opinions on it and lots of thoughts around that. So if everyone's happy, I can jump into that.
That's good.
So start at the very beginning. So abstracts, I think there's quite a lot to delve into, starting with the abstract submission, but moving through to reviewing, comms, merge docs, missing bits of merge docs, the presenter portal, and then particularly into the agenda and how that's used in websites, how that's used in the app, what's the difference between the two, all of that. So I thought we might start at the beginning and talk about abstract submission. And I thought I'd just throw some things together and then we can all discuss it. The presenter portal, as far as I'm aware, is for the next thing that's slated for development at Events Air. They've talked about that for the last couple of airtime conferences, and I think it's on the 12-month plan, which will be great. So obviously, for those who most of us, I think, on the chat today are pretty experienced in it, but just for anyone who's watching who maybe isn't, just to cover a couple of things. When you're getting into abstract submission for the first time, it's just really important that we ask our clients the right questions to get started. Simple things like, are you going to do a blind review or an open review will change what the abstract template is, because one would have a name on it and one wouldn't. So things like that. And how are you going to review? What is your review criteria going to be? That will drive what the abstract will need to look like at the beginning. Are you going to be doing it in an abstract book? Is it going into a scientific publication? All of that sort of stuff. What presentation types are you accepting? The timings for those presentation types? What themes and sub-themes? All of those questions are really important right up front. And I think when you're getting new into doing this, it's really easy to be overwhelmed with what do I need to ask them so that this process is correct from the beginning. Some of the things that come up for me quite a lot in the ones that I've looked after, and abstract, the program side of it is probably the thing that I have the biggest background in my career. I've spent years in program and I geekily love it. I love the logistics of it. I'm a total nerd on it. But anyway, so some of the things that come up quite regularly for me with doing abstract submission is that often my clients are going to want more than one theme selected. They're going to want 2 or 3, a second and third theme selection. I've achieved that through custom fields, but in the perfect world, that wouldn't be how it would be done. It would all be done through the theme and sub-theme with the first, second, third preference. And it comes into streaming when you're doing reviewing. Sometimes people will review a certain theme and we're going to be putting our conference into streams, and sometimes there'll be so many submissions in one stream that we need to put them into their secondary theme. So it is an important piece of information to gather, but the way it currently is, with only being able to choose one theme / sub-theme, it's a bit limiting. And when you do it as custom fields, it works, but it's just not perfect, and it's on a separate little section in the abstract submissions. It's just not ideal. So I would love to see that change. Sarah's come off mute.
I know, because I was about to say the thing that I forgot when doing my themes and sub themes, not this conference last year, was I forgot. I feel like I did know this, but if you don't select a sub theme, then it doesn't properly go through to the review portal, which meant that we had about 40 abstracts that didn't get reviewed because the system doesn't pick them up because there isn't a sub theme selected.
And at the moment, because when you can set a theme, if you also select sub-themes, there is easily, people can choose just the top theme and it doesn't give the sub-theme. So that could be looked at as well. I've got that on my list too. It's just...
and that it doesn't filter it down. So if they select like the theme, it doesn't filter it down so that the sub-themes that are relevant...
it's all on
so
the
it just becomes this
the one
200...
big drop down.
Yeah.
So I would love to see that be re-looked at and revisited when they look at the way that this portal is building, and the option to choose. I think 3 is fine. I don't think it needs to be more than 3, but definitely a second and third theme preference because of the process of so many going into the same thing. I think that's important. The other thing that comes up for me a lot is awards. So people being like, I do want to be considered for an award, and again, you do it as a custom field, but I think it would be great to see that as a fundamental core thing within the presenter portal, like switching on awards, yes or no, and what kind of awards you need to be considered for, because that can come up quite a lot. And then the other thing that is my biggest thing is that I've dealt with a lot of events that have symposia, and the symposia will have 4 or 5 presenters and collection of their bios. I would love to see it that for every presenting author, when you tick on that I'm a presenting author in their portal, it will drop down with a bio box, and those will then all filter through. Obviously, you can go and use the contact bio to put a presenter bio in, which will filter through to the app, not the website agenda at the moment, but it will in the app, which is great. But you're still manually having to go out to those people and ask them, oh, we see you're a presenting author on, can you now upload their bio? Being able to do it all within that portal. But further to that, if you're a presenting author, co-presenting, but not the submitting author, at the moment, in your record and events there, it comes through as presenting author on. But that component is not available in merge documents. So I can't send an email to that speaker and say, we know that you're a presenting author on, and here are your presentation details. We're relying on the submitting author to pass on the speaker briefing notes, the registration, all of that stuff. For me, that's a fundamental thing that needs to change, because more often than not now, we are having multiple presenters on one submission. So that's probably pretty top of my hit list for it. What are your thoughts on that? Is everyone feeling the same kind of those ones that I've covered just there? Are other people finding the same issues?
I think that the contact bio has been an issue forever and a day. And when they've actually gone to, like, from conversations that I've had with some of the team at Events Air, they didn't realize how many places that it was linking to contact bio, and they thought that it was going to be an easy fix, and then they found out that it actually wasn't going to be an easy fix. I mean, we have the challenge of the the contact bio, because it's not linked to the presenting bio. People will go in and update their contact bio, but then they don't realize that that doesn't update their presenting bio. So then we get a flood of messages just before the conference that we have to go and manually update.
Yeah.
The linking around the co-authors is just a nightmare.
And if you imagine in a portal, as soon as you click on presenting author by is the tick box, if it then provided you a box to enter that person's bio, so that when you're going back into the portal and editing, it wasn't just one box with, you know, us ending up putting 5 different symposium bios in it, whatever, it all just sat, it was all responsive. It would be so good. I think that would just be game changing. Also around merge documents, obviously, yeah, you can't, it's just a component. We know the information is there because it's sitting in that presenting author component in Air. So being able to pull that into the merge doc, and I think that just comes from the history of that. Often things will get developed and there's so much, it's such a feature rich product, so they're developing the portal but not necessarily thinking through to the communications that go out from that, and okay, well, we need to now add that into the merge docs. And the other one is the session chairs. Trying to pull a merge doc for the session chairs is just, everyone shares the pain on this one, that it brings in, if you put in the session role, it'll bring in like every session repeated for every presenter in that session. And you've got 10 speakers, you're seeing session details 10 times. And what you want is a beautifully wrapped up in a bow. Here are the session details and here are the presenters, boom, 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 boom. And that's what you need. And I know that, you know, my friend Grant here has done amazing things for session chairs with the API for on-site, which is great. But in the lead up, you know, you need to be able to communicate to the session chairs in a really effective way. This is a session you're presenting, and you can send them to the app or the website to look at all the presenter details and bios and things like that. That's fine. But just the fact that you have to manually take out the 8 different instances of that session, it's messy and it's time consuming. And it's something we all have to, you know, generally we are sending session chair notifications out, their briefing notes out in advance. So that's a bugbear for me that I think could be really revisited, for sure.
Magella, you were going to say something?
Thanks, Grant. At the moment, so for our prior sessions, any authors that get accepted to present in a prior session, I manually have to copy and paste the contact bio from the profile to the presentation or vice versa. That way they pull on our session reports So I guess I'm keen for any changes because that manual process takes quite a bit of time. So I'm not across, we don't use the abstract review portal in EA. We have our own manual process. So I'm not very familiar with that side of things, but keen to find out, I guess, more information.
I'm keen for you to find out too, Mandela.
Anything that takes away some manual handling is we're keen for.
Your manual process is powered by wine, I think. Is that
well,
right?
I don't drink alcohol, so
no. But I mean, when
hot
you get
chocolate.
when you get the panel together to do the reviews, it's more of a paper and wine process, is what I understood.
They're probably drinking wine, yes.
Yeah, that's right.
It's probably really interesting. No, you go, Grant.
I was just going to say that there's a couple of things that you raise in there that is like some of those things that we've had to try to work around. And you said about the custom session reports that we've done, and that's great, except that we do rely a lot on the app and what's going to be shown in that. And so when you talk about like co-presenters, it's a real challenge to see the bios of both of however many presenters there are. And particularly when we do panel discussions, that's always a challenge, right? Do we end up putting in, and sometimes we've done this, a panel discussion where you put in 5 presentations, separate presentations that all start at the same time. Well, now you can see the bios of each person versus putting it in as one presentation and then co-presenters or, like presenting authors. But then you only get one bio, and so in the app I'm talking about, how that displays. And so they're sort of the constant little challenges that is what we're talking about with how the presenting authors and actually I can see in how Events Air is sort of storing that information, because a presentation can be assigned to someone, and sometimes we've had this where the presentation is attached to their contact record, but they're not actually assigned as an author. And so now lots of things break, but it's still technically attached to them, but they're not actually an author presenting or not. And so we've had little challenges there that we've needed to sort of work around. But
and I think it comes down to as well, when people develop software, sometimes we know the how, but we don't know the why, because they're not physically on site managing all the comms every day and the speakers and how that works on site. So they can give you all the tools, but it's like, how do you use those tools? We all, it's like a recipe. We get the ingredients and we put the ingredients in, but we might cook different things. So it's finding the middle point of like, what's the dish that we most want to cook, all of us. We all need spaghetti bolognese. And that's
but like the contact bio thing, like, come on. We all like.
And I mean, I think the major thing is that for every presenting author, we need a bio. We need the bio to show on the app and on the interactive agenda. We need to be able to provide that bio to a chair. For everybody who's presenting author, we also need them to register. We need them to see speaker briefing notes. We need to communicate what session they're presenting in. So for each presenting author, we need that information, but it's submitted by one person. So how do we manage that? And similar to, in the way the functions module works at the moment, you can put someone's email address in, and when you're buying a function ticket for that person, and it can automatically send them off a communication. It's the same kind of concept. When I put that this person's a co-author and I can put their email address in and their bio, I want that to then populate so that in their record, it's going to then be able to send them the same comms that I send to the submitting author. So it's a whole big puzzle of how we work it. But I think it's a really good time with Sentium looking at this portal over the next 12 months to raise these things, and to hopefully, maybe there's an opportunity to have a little user group online forum where we talk, a few key people who are doing this all the time can sit and we can put these things on the table. I know that they're really keen for that and open for that. And reviewing, it's interesting, segueing into reviewing and the wine reviewing is such a thing, because some clients, some conveners are very, very old school and they don't want to do online reviewing. I actually really like the online reviewing portal. I think it's good. It's very simple and easy to use. I've found it's been really effective. It's been one of my wins in the software. I also like the abstract workflow app. I think that's great as well. It can do a lot through that. But for those who don't want to do reviewing that way, who want to do it the manual way, there's almost another conversation around how you're submitting these abstracts. If you submit an abstract as a Word document that's uploaded, then you're able to really easily go into AirDrive and pull an export that gives the reviewing panel all of the information that's been captured, everything, themes, presentation type, but also gives you a hyperlink to the Word document or PDF of the abstract. Whereas if you're doing a text input, that doesn't come up on that export. It's a little bit harder to just give it to them in a simple way if they're not using the online reviewing zone. So I quite like doing Word document upload for that reason. It's forces it into a particular style, good for doing abstract book, and I get this really great export, that one spreadsheet that gives me everything for my convener, because often you'll have the themes, individual themes being reviewed by certain people, but then you'll have one or two people who go, I want to see all abstracts, but they don't want to have 500 abstracts assigned to them in the reviewing portal, because that's quite a lot and quite arduous to go through. But if we're able to give them that one export that's just literally click a button from AirDrive and it comes out and it's got the hyperlink to the document, that's so easy for them, because they can just, from this one spreadsheet, go, I want to look at that abstract and just pull it up, and it's nice and easy. So that's where I'm a fan of the Word document upload.
Yeah, can I just clarify that? So you instead of them pasting their abstract text and all of that in as text fields,
correct,
you're saying attach it, and so they may have different formatting and they might have different information in it and that sort of stuff, but generally you find that it is uniformed enough. Is that what you found?
So we give them a template. The ones that I usually do, you have a Word template and you make it clear this is the format it needs to be in, and sometimes that's driven by the scientific book that it's going to go into. It needs to be in this font, it needs to be like this, and that's uploaded, and then because it's uploaded, what happens is on the reviewing zone you can put a little script in so they view it as a PDF, so they can't change the document. But there's a report that comes straight out of AirDrive that pulls everything into one report, and it gives you a hyperlink to each document, because it's, you can download all the documents in one hit as well into a zip folder and stuff. So whereas with a text input, it doesn't come out like that way. So that's definitely the way that I've tended to go, but not everyone goes that way.
No, if you're trying to generate the book, the abstract book, I guess does it still pull all those in, or it does?
Well, yeah, but what you do is you just look at what you're doing with the template. So in the book, you choose not to turn on the titles and the authors because they're already in the template.
They're already there.
Unless it's a blind review. So it's just controlling.
Yeah.
And that abstract workflow, fun fact, I actually was involved with Centium in developing the abstract book for the workflow app when I was working for them. And we talked a lot about being able to switch on and off those things, because sometimes you want them and sometimes you don't. And I think they've done a really good job. They do a really good job in getting it to be quite a flexible thing and being able to pull on, whether you do an author index or whether you don't, it depends what you need it for. So, but I'd love to know from the others who are around whether you're doing text or Word document upload. Lisa, Sarah,
Cube, Lisa.
I'm more sitting here thinking about what does everyone else use the portal for, because I've actually used it to manage our annual awards, which yeah, I think sometimes, you know, like I think I echo what you were saying, Fleur, with some of the issues. And look, we do have, you know, like it's not always great. I love the workflow app. I think that works really great. And I think that with, you know, once you get to use the system, I realized, well, hang on, like how we were managing our awards was so labor intensive, and we were sending judges. And I realized, you know what, the awards are similar to an abstract. So yes, it took, well, yes, it took a lot of coding and stuff to change it, but once you've done it, you can clone it. Yeah, but I think I echo, probably our biggest issue that we've been having recently is we're finding some gremlins in the system, and we're finding things are disappearing. So yeah, we're finding that like the abstract book, we are exporting quite regularly closer to when we're printing, because we are finding that for some reason, we're not sure, things are going missing. So then it just helps us to have a backlog.
You like losing the whole presentation, like the presentation goes missing.
Yeah, the
like
synopsis
the whole abstract
goes missing.
Yeah, there was a similar situation in the weekend, Grant, and clone of the portal and no kind of explanation. But I think sometimes it comes down to, there's been a few gremlins that are around scientific characters that they would then throw the abstracts after those out, but I think they're ironing them out. But yeah, there's definitely been an interesting little couple of months, hasn't it, Lisa?
Yeah, so you know, I think it's called AV requirements, and obviously we're a medical conference, so we actually rechanged it to be patient requirements. And it was something that we could see in the change log that they had gone and put their patient requirements, but it wouldn't save.
Right.
So luckily we could go through the change log and find it, so that we could get the patient's details, but there wasn't an answer of why it wouldn't stay, even though we could see the speaker's gone in, they've edited, they've saved it, it just seems to disappear. So I'm looking forward to some of the changes that are going to happen with the upgrade.
That's interesting. It is an interesting use for it, to reuse that AV requirements. One of the things that we used to have, last week I was talking about how we had an old API which was written for us. We gave us direct access to presentations. This is really all it was. The public API that exists now is lots of all the modules are kind of available now, right? But the thing that we had that we really miss was essentially like an abandoned cart, like a shopping cart. When someone fills a shopping cart and then they don't submit, they don't go through with the order. In the same way, through the abstract submission process, you can have people that will go through the whole process, have spent a lot of time entering all the data, and then they don't actually submit. As it stands now, there's no way to capture that data or to know that it exists in any way. And so it's possible sometimes that people, and that's when they contact you and say, why is my abstract not there? I was like, well, because you didn't actually submit it in the end. It was still in a draft mode, right? So one of the things that we had on the old API is we could see all those, which was amazing, right? Because we could just run a little report and it would say these 5 people. It's the same as when they go in and edit it. You know, if you allow that, they go and edit it. And then if they don't save and resubmit, then the edits have been stored, but they haven't actually submitted. And so now you don't know. So I do think I did ask Centim about it, and they said that there was privacy issues with releasing that sort of data, which I kind of get, but I wonder if there's a way around that, or a way of explaining, you know, that the organisers could have access to that if they haven't actually submitted, or at least just to see that see no access to the data, but just see that there's a submission that's sitting there.
Well, you can do, like when someone creates a contact first in a presenter portal, I will often create a submit action at the end of that contact form. It's just a marketing code called submitting author abstract account created. And that way I can monitor that and go, oh, that person hasn't actually submitted something. I can
They
chase
didn't do
them for
anything.
that. But it would be great to have like a pop-up on the screen in the abstract submission portal, just like if you're shopping. Oh, you haven't hit submit. Do you really want to close? Like, that kind of thing that you get if you go some online shopping, do that.
I think we do the same as you, Fleur. Yeah, we have it set up so that it's like a data validation contact with no presentation, but it's a marketing code. So we can run that report. And it's so many people think they've submitted, but it's still a draft.
Yeah.
We do it the opposite. To create a record, I link them to an interactive site, and then from the interactive site I do the marketing tag so then I know the difference, if that makes sense. And then that means that I've captured all of these contacts who haven't actually done anything and don't have a presentation, like run this report. Because I hate that you can set up an account
and not do anything,
but you
and then
what why where does that information go?
I was just poking around. Lisa, sorry, can I ask for Lisa, with the awards you're talking about, is there ever the need for a single contact to be I don't know submitting to multiple awards? It's one of the things that we get. And how do you manage that?
Yeah, so it's also a little bit tricky because usually, if like for us, someone else is nominating them, so we have to capture. So you have to build that as well to get a custom field of who is actually nominating them. We do it as like a separate registration form. So if they want to register, nominate people for multiple, then they do have to go through each time. I'd love it if someone else has a solution. And we don't have too many that are getting nominated for multiple awards. Most of it's just one category.
Yeah, we've got a bit of a process that where we're using contact custom fields, and so as they create their custom field, they're able to put in more of those general terms, and then when it comes to the presentation is where they're saying specifically for this presentation I want it to be considered for this award. It's not perfect, but it's not too bad. But because there often is a single contact who's submitting multiple abstracts, and then wants the different ones to be applied to different abstracts. So that's a little bit of a challenge.
For us, apart from like the Lifetime Achievement Award, for most of the other awards, it's actually helped the judges in that people, when we used to do it as like an open format, send us, these, whereas now with using the abstract portal, we have like, okay, this is your answer to question 1. This is your answer to question 2. This is, yes, we've had to really build it all, and they can do a submitting document, but then it means for the judges, they're all like, oh my God, it's so much easier for us to review all the submissions because, you're actually telling them what they have to fill in.
Yeah, that's great.
That's cool.
So talking about presenter portal, so obviously you have the abstract submission process. Then the next step is that you send the offers out to people. You've been accepted as an oral presentation, whatever it
Fleur,
might
give
be.
us the code. Give us the code, Fleur. We need the code. Where's the code?
So we tend to, we need to give you that code. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I forgot to send you that. Yeah. Okay, I will send you that. So we the ones that I work on a lot, we send them back into the presenter portal. So we have the abstracts portal and the presenter portal. They look very similar and they're a clone of each other, but we keep them separate so that when we're doing that event again, we don't lose the wording and stuff that's in the abstract submission portal. But in the presenter portal, that's where they can accept their offer. And we have a code that scripts out that little triangle with the exclamation mark in it, so it freezes it, and also makes it so that they can't edit their abstract. They can only everything's sort of switched off for them, but they can accept their offer as a custom field in the presentation module. And that's been allowed us to not have any back and forth email with people, like email us back to confirm that you accepted, and then you go in and change their paper status to accepted. All of that doesn't exist anymore for the ones that I tend to work on, where it's all just done through a presenter portal. Then we put in the speaker briefing notes into that, which is effectively a tab to a little mini site where they can read all their briefing notes, and then they register through that portal as well. So found that's been a really good way of, always in any business, looking at the processes that are manual and how can we make them not manual? How can we save ourselves some time? So found a presenter portal is a really good way. And one of the key things that we're always having to look for is which presenters haven't registered, because they all have to register. It's usually, particularly scientific conferences where they're submitting abstracts, they still have to pay to register. And if they haven't registered by a certain time, then their paper might get pulled. So there is a data validation in the system that allows you to check speakers who haven't registered, but that's only going to work if they're in the same record. And if you register through the speaker portal, it will then bring the registration back into that record. But often they don't. They go to the website and they register, and then you have to merge them, and then it's deciding, are we merging it back to the presenter record or to the registration record, because it depends which one has got a link back to something. Like, if you're still in within a month of the conference, you might have them being able to go back to their registration and make changes. So you've got them hyperlinked from both records. So there's always questions about that. So the more you can encourage presenters to register through the presenter portal, you're going to solve all that in one hit, which I think is really relevant and important. So that is that. I look conscious of time. I really want to talk about agenda. And at the moment, so for the majority of events I work on, we use the interactive agenda. We use Eventsia websites. We embed the interactive agenda. But I have some bugbears with it. And I would love to see this agenda mirror the attendee app agenda, but in the colours of the interactive agenda, because we know that the latest version of the app at the moment doesn't pull through the colour schemes. But my issues in the interactive agenda at the moment is a few things. You can do a lot with scripting. You can script it to be a bit wider and left aligned, and can hide track headings and all that sort of stuff, but it does require quite a lot of scripting. It would be great for there to be some settings in it instead of scripting, because I just don't think I'm not a great scripter, and I don't claim to be, so I think it would be great if things were sort of more tick box stuff. The co-author biographies don't appear on the interactive agenda the way that they do in the app, so that's a bugbear for me. And mainly the fact that there's no gap between the presentation. So when you open up the session information, you've got the presentation title and then the bio, and then the next one is hard up underneath it. And the only way that I asked for a script for it and was told there isn't one. The only way I've been able to space them beautifully, and I've only done it for ones that are only invited speakers because it's a big job, is to put break into the bio for every single presenter, so that it spreads it out a little bit more and it's a bit more palatable to look at. I also find the headings on that page, they look quite big because they're pulling from the brand, but it would be great if you could just control the headings just for that page, and not, whether that's another thing that gets it into a brand. But I feel like having brand settings that affect lots and lots of different places, that particular agenda just doesn't look flash when you open it. It just feels, when you look at it compared to the way that the app looks, the app is really cool. The app also includes the filtering, the searching functionality. So I would love to see the interactive agenda have the same attention that the app has had, because the interactive agenda is what we use the whole time leading up to the conference. And it's only once people get the app a week out that we actually switch to that. And it's so helpful to have the interactive agenda. I love it, because we all know that these change all the time. Our presenters change all the time. People cancel all the time. You don't want to constantly be updating a PDF. That's just hard work and frustrating. You want it to be seamless. So I'm a big fan of the interactive agenda. I would just love for it to get the overhaul that the app is getting at the moment, because I think the agenda's looking nice in the app if it could just get some color control in there. So I'd love to know what everyone's thoughts on that.
I
Are you using it?
Yeah, I use the interactive, and I have 62 pages of code to make it look like it does.
62 pages.
62 pages. It might be
Would
up
you
to
like to share it?
63 by now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I've got a whole heap of customization in there to
Yeah.
hide things that aren't relevant, like the
Yeah.
tracks, like certain things that I don't want them to search on.
Yeah.
I've got a whole, because I don't use concurrence because I hate concurrence. Well, because my attendees also hate concurrence because they
Right.
want to see the title of the presentation on the website.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I've like had to build everything out in 10-minute blocks and color code it. So there has to be a whole
Oh
heap
my
of code
goodness.
to make it look like that. I'm so proud of it. Uh,
You should be. You
until
seem
it
very
broke, until it
yeah.
broke about a month ago. And then, yeah, that was all good fun.
It does look
It's,
amazing, Sarah. You've done so
thank you,
much hard
Lisa.
I
work.
want to
Thank
look at it
you.
now. I want to see it. I want you to share the love. But I
Oh,
think, the
I'll
key
send it to you.
message there, though, Sarah, is that for everybody across the board, how many people are going to understand 63 pages of code and have to go to that? You really want to work towards a product that is end user friendly, that doesn't require
Yes.
that level of
Yeah,
scripting,
yeah,
Yeah.
because everyone
It's
says that they want it to
confusing
look
for
more
people.
like they want it to look more like the like what WordPress does. And so, I mean, I wish I
Yeah.
could claim that this is all me. It's also Melissa Avard from CEC. She um came up with the idea of the color coding, so that was a massive help for me. I've just basically
Yeah.
Yeah.
taken that on board, but it's just like I had some people that were wanting to add a presentation in like a sponsored presentation like a week out. And I was like, no, because you were going to break my website. I'm going to have to recode everything over again. And that,
Yeah.
that would take me a couple of hours to make it look like that.
Yeah.
And then attendees come on site and bitch about it. It's like,
But
And there's challenges, I've got one I'm working on at the moment where they're sponsored sessions, and what they want on the website and the way I've got it looking in the website is good for now. But as soon as we flick to working in the app, I have to take all that coding out of what I put into the top of these sessions and the details, because it doesn't need to be in the app because the app pulls through the sponsor anyway. So it's all those kind of things, like it's double handling, and I would just love to see some synergy between those.
yeah,
Have
like
you just
the
shared
fact
that
that the
program in the
yes,
chat?
yeah. So the fact that the fact that the website I can use coding like HTML, just generic like breaks and stuff like that. The app you
Mm-hmm.
can't. The app pulls through all of the coding, so then you have to go through and turn everything off or delete it. And I've had to change it. I know one of the things that we shared at the user conference was calling things lunch and then doing your spaces. Doesn't work in
Yeah,
the app anymore. Have to get rid of it. Have
yeah,
to rename everything the day lunch. Also, the
yeah,
really
yeah.
fun thing that
I do
happened.
too.
Did you hear about my app flirt? I was
No,
talking. Oh,
no, tell me.
our program completely stopped working on site. Down.
Oh
It
my
said that there was
god.
nothing existed.
Oh
There
my
was lots and
gosh.
lots of emails back and forth, and they think that it had something to do with that the system didn't. We require login to pull the app, the program up because we have resources in there,
Yeah.
and they think that it's because it couldn't realize that people were logged in. Anyway, Renee,
Oh
when
my
you
The
watch
good,
gosh.
this, I'm really looking forward to talking to you about it.
Oh,
but
that's really
Sarah,
stressful.
the good news is it happened on the very last day in the last hour of the conference, of course, right?
Oh, yeah, and no, I wish that it did. It
If
happened. Yes,
only.
yes, absolutely, it did.
I
No,
should laugh.
and but the thing is that because that went down, it meant that there was no Q&A. We lost all
No,
like,
yeah,
and I
everything.
haven't, yeah, everything. And
Yeah,
first it
that's
was only happening
critical.
for iPhones, and then it started happening for Androids as well.
Were
And
you
it was
using the new app, Sarah?
yes,
Yeah.
silly
Okay.
me, silly
No,
me. It
We're all
looks
I
so
getting nervous
beautiful.
now. We're all
well,
getting very
I'm
nervous
only
using the current
just
app.
swapping to it, and I can see there's some things I love. We talked about the Intendi app last week quite a bit, but that's that's such a hard one to deal with, because that is like the most critical piece of information on your app, is that program. So I hopefully Sentient can give you some assurance that that's not going to happen again and put your mind at ease, because that would make me feel physically sick.
It did. I
Yeah.
said that the night before the conference, because we had quite a controversial opening keynote, that we needed to moderate all the Q&A. So I
Yep.
really could not have microphones on the ground.
Yep.
And I literally was just going through a cycle for 6 hours. I was just going into panic attacks for 6 hours.
Yeah, that's awful. You poor thing. Oh gosh. Well, let's hope that's not the norm.
Yeah.
That's really
Yay.
stressful. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to go back to the agenda and be selfish and talk about my 12 concurrents that we did. I must admit that I have given up actually putting the block into the website, because they've never been able to give me code. Maybe Sarah Allen could figure it out and code it, but it's never been able to fit. And ours are very much wanting to look at all the concurrents.
Yes.
So you
Yeah.
go into the event info site, I noticed.
That's what I do. Because, and
Yeah.
to be honest, since we use the event info site, I get 0 complaints, because they can view it as a block.
She's like, I want that too. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, but I just wish that, you know, it'd be such an easy thing for me to drag the block over, because you do, like, I can't host it on our website. I have to, it is a link that the delegate has to then click to view it. So and it doesn't look as pretty as what it would be if I could just use the block.
I feel like you're able to go up to 10. I feel like it or is it
No,
because
it even doesn't look pretty with 10.
I've got 7 at the moment.
12. No, I've gone up to 13, but it's with a scroll bar. Like, you can't see it all on one page. It's with a scroll bar. I've widened.
It's not a competition, everyone. It's not a competition, all right? We all have events. They're all different sizes.
Oh, I did notice.
I will go somewhere with 2. Thanks.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
I was definitely interested in what you did, Lisa. I had a client who happened to see yours, and she then complained to me that mine didn't have the speaker search that yours has, because you've got the speaker search in the event info site.
Yeah.
And I was like, we can't win here. but yeah, it was, you know, you found a workaround, but it's in the ideal world, that interactive program. I think it's like, I always remind myself when I talk about events, their websites, because I use them all the time, and I am a big fan because of the interactivity with the software, is that is something that comes as part of the software package. We're not paying 50 grand for a website. Like, it's never going to be an Apple website. It's not going to be, you know, it is part of the package. So we can't expect every single thing, but that particular element, the interactive program, to me is so critical to, that's the main reason that someone goes to a conference website: to register, to submit an abstract, and to view the program. Those are the 3 things that mainly people go for. So,
but I feel that it's very telling that also Events Air then never uses their own interactive program for any of their like conferences. Like that frustrates me so much, because like if you use it, then you would understand why we say we need it to do the thing. Like, I get that their program looks really pretty when they do airtime, but
I think they'll watch this and they'll hear that. Sarah's saying, ring me about my agenda and I want to see it. And yeah, no, I agree. I think, you know, you practice what you preach, and I agree. I would love to see, because I think there's so much potential there with what that can look like. And it's such a critical part. It's the biggest part of a conference. It's the absolute biggest part. If the program's not there and it's not right, there is no conference. So feel quite passionately about it. Beautiful. Did anyone else have any other thoughts about wish list on the? Oh, I was going to say, I love the personal agenda in the new attendee app, though. There's my big positive for the day. The personal agenda in the new attendee app is great, because when you star a session as your favorite, you can actually do Q&A in that session. In the old app, yes, you can. It takes you, it's got the full functionality of that session. I was testing it today.
that must have been updated.
I think it must have, because in the old My Agenda, you couldn't do anything. You just saw the session details and couldn't actually use Q&A or anything. So I love that you can now do that. I love that you can, in that tab, like bring in their accommodation and their function bookings, not have them in the main agenda, but it does make it a personal agenda. So I am a fan of the way that has developed. I think that's exciting. So
we've started adding, like, for all staff and stuff like that, we've added in like, it's manual and pain in the ass, but we were adding in, like, when we needed people to be at reg desk and like wayfinding, and so then it showed up when the personal agenda did work, it showed up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's all right. Lisa's just heading off. We love seeing you, Lisa. I was fantastic. So did anyone else, Sarah, Cole, you've been so quiet. We've heard a lot from our lovely Sarah Allen today. Did you have anything you wanted to add about agendas program? She's still there.
She's not
I was about
rocking
to
in the
say
corner.
she was there and then she's gone and she was dealing
Yeah,
with
I had
something.
something come up that I had to deal with in the meantime. So
Oh.
I've been listening, but I haven't really got much else to add. Most of the things you've been talking about, I've been adamantly agreeing with in the background. So yeah, nothing else to add at this point.
Yeah, awesome.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I
do think.
Go, Grant.
Oh, and I was just going to say, I think that in general, the one of the biggest challenges that we have is the inconsistency of the output in different places, which is what you're talking about. It's like, okay, so it shows like this in the app, but then it's like this on the site. And then, it shows like this in an email, or it's, whatever it is.
Right.
That's a big challenge. And sometimes we're having to compromise to try to decide what is the priority. Okay, I know it's the website output. Oh no, it's the app output. That's the priority. So we'll go with that, and then we'll just try to work around on the other things. And so that's my most constructive feedback is just consistency across it, because we can tend to work around some things and be creative, but not when it's very different in different places. So hopefully that is changing. I think the app, it's always I have a little bit of sympathy for Sentium as they go through some of these processes, releasing a new app and then still trying to support the old one, and clearly we saw some bugs in that process. It was like, well, no, you have to do your images this size, which is the new size, but that has to work in the old size. It's like, and I get that they're trying to bend themselves in a pretzel to try to make it work to support a legacy product as well as the new thing. And so I get it's almost an impossible task, but hopefully everyone will then just move to the new app, and okay, now we're all on the same page and we can bug fix and whatever.
I think that they're starting to ask the questions though. Like previously, I don't think that we were always asked the questions, and now with like the wireframes that they're sending, not the wireframes, the
Figma.
Yes, thank you. That they're kind of sending through. It's not a one-way dialogue where we're saying we need it to do this thing. They're going, we need it to do a thing, and then like they're coming back and they're asking us questions, and then a couple of us are like, I know definitely Kelly from OT and I were like jumping on and talking like one after the other, and Cyrus was kind of getting, okay, that's really interesting. Like, why does it need to do this and why does it need to do that? So I think that that is a noticeable change that I am enjoying, because they're doing something and then they're asking us and wanting to understand why we need it to do the thing that we're asking.
Yeah. Because we're a demanding group of people too.
Oh my God, we're the worst.
I think the problem is that we don't have any opinions on things. We don't have any ideas. We don't, Yes.
I was just going to say, we are sort of the hour mark, and we did sort of say last week that probably an hour is about where people's limit is on it. But we're happy to stay on and talk to anyone who's got other things that they want to talk about. We're always happy to do that. But I don't want people to feel the pressure to stay for an hour and a half. It's an important, it's Monday, it's lunchtime. We get that, and we very much appreciate you joining us. It's great. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. Thank you for hosting.
Yeah. Nice.
It's
Get to
great
catch up
to
more
realize how
regularly.
I
we're not
know.
alone.
No,
We're not alone.
no. Yes. So much nicer than the Facebook group.
I've got one
Yeah.
for you. We've got a release coming out today,
Today.
tomorrow,
Yeah,
today.
tonight. Mhm.
So I was curious. Oops, sorry, hang on.
Deals at the airport.
Yeah. Announcement.
Slightly too loud. Sorry about that. So I was curious. Does everyone run a local backup? What do they do for these rollouts? They simply pin down any current live events and cross their fingers, or yeah,
I pin beforehand if I'm going on site, and now I'll just let it roll.
Yeah.
touch wood, I don't recall having any major. Well, when I say we, sometimes it's deferred to someone else using the platform. It doesn't directly affect me, but for the most part, maybe even recent months, the rollouts have seemed to have been quite stable for us from a show delivery point of view. There's a few little bumps here and there, but from a delivery point of view, it hasn't impacted anything that I'm aware of. I think the key one recently comes to mind, of course, was the payment side of things back in November. That was pretty significant, but it's one of those things with the release notes that are coming out, you kind of get a better feel for things, whether you're going to pin it or just cross your fingers and hope. And
If it's within a week of going on site, I would always pin just to be sure, and then unpin and get and push it out as soon as possible. Depends on like what's in it. If it's something critical and we know that has to get fixed, but it's the timing of it. Yeah. Certainly with one of the other places I work for, we have an event this week, so we're not getting that database update till after that.
Yeah. Was there anything exciting in the release notes? I haven't had a look yet.
It's the attendee verification stuff. That's the new.
Of course, that was the
that's the key one.
But that's only if you have the. Is that only if you have that? Like that's an additional payment, isn't it, to get that? Or am I making it?
No, I think it is. I think it's it's an add-on thing.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, which yeah.
Grant, can we add that on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be nice.
Cool.
The thing with updates I find is it's the same with all software, is you're always trading off between the known bugs that you have now and the unknown bugs of the new system. And you never really know. So sometimes, like you're saying, Fleur, if you see the changelog is really saying it's fixed this, 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 and this, then you've got to make that decision as to whether that's worth it and worth the risk of introducing something new.
Totally.
Totally. So it depends how risk adverse you are. It's like, are you optimistic about the new one is okay and let's get rid of the old bugs? Or I'll stick with the devil I know. And I know those bugs and I've already worked around them. And so now I just stick to the pinning. It's also the time for them to fix the new bugs, right? So I think it's a pretty good rule of thumb, yours, Fleur. If you're within a week, the chances are any new bugs are not going to be fixed, before the event. At least
I'm not going to put it all on black today because I've got an event this week. I mean, I think the thing is like to be really mindful. It's such a feature-rich product. It's so massive that the logistics of actually doing QA on every single part of that software every time you do a release, it's just not possible. So there will be surprise things that come out. There's been plenty of times where something's happened and I've been like, oh, this is a bug. Did you know about that? And no, but it just takes one client to pick up one random thing that's as a result of this. It would be impossible to do QA for every.
Yeah. And that's what they think happened with our app is they're kind of like, we think that you could be the first person that's found this bug.
Yeah.
And it just sucks to be that first person to find that bug.
It does.
Well, and because we can be the only ones that are doing it in a particular way as well, right? Like all these workarounds that we're doing or that we're using this for a completely different, use case. And now only the bug appears when you do it that way, which we've had a few of those. It's like no one else is using it like that. It's like, we just, we're manipulating it in a way. And so now that can reveal a bug,
And that's the thing, because we are manipulating and sometimes got lots of scripts and stuff, they're going to QA on the core product. They're not QAing against scripts that you might have written or that have come up.
Right.
So that's a big part of why they're phasing out custom development, because they can't continuously support every other little version. And that kind of comes back to why I'm saying things like the interactive agenda. If we had tick box settings that make it very end user rather than relying on all these different scripts that we put in, because that script might then not work in a future instance of, you know, the software, and that's just our risk that we take by putting these scripts and things into it and doing customizations, is that we need to know that it's going to work. We don't all have a Grant sitting in our office who's a guru with that stuff. I'm not, you know, I'm an end user. I'm not a scripter. So you do never know what's going to get broken. So yeah, all good stuff.
There's a problem. I'm always the optimist every time. I walk around in my
love
bloody
that.
Events Air hoodie and tell them how much I love them. I need to stop doing that.
I'm the same, Sarah. I think, you know, we've been in it for so long. It's like Grant talked about it last week as a marriage. Except the wife has bad breath or the partner has bad breath, and you know that, but you still love them, you're still in bed with them. It's that same concept. So don't lose that optimism, because I think it is actually a really optimistic period that we're in with them. They are more open to hearing things. They want you to be part of the conversation. It's just moving in a really positive direction. Ideally not having your whole agenda disappear on site is probably, you know, that would, if you can still be an optimist after that, that says a lot about you.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Oh,
It
my
was,
goodness.
there was tears. Lots of tears.
There would have been.
I'm sure.
There would have been.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I did a sternly worded email that's not very stern from me.
Oh, you're kind. Mine would have been a stern phone call if I had been one of them. You know, they're receptive to it. I'm sure they were just as horrified as you. Yeah. And it's just about how you respond to that and how quickly did it get back up?
At first off, I thought that it was because I had turned on because I had a pre-function workshop so I needed to take TAP, but then I needed the Q&A. Anyway, so I had to turn on Q&A for the session and turn off and blah, 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 you know. And I turned that on, and then a couple of hours later it stopped working. So I was like, oh, maybe it was me. Maybe I've broken it. And anyway, I went in and I turned off the Q&A, and it just miraculously started working again. I'm like, great, it's fixed. It's okay. Everybody calm down. And then a couple of hours later, it went back down. Yeah, it was basically on and off the whole kind of time that we were there. And then I think by the Saturday night, they had worked out and thought that it might have been the login issue. So that's 2 days of conferencing.
Really interesting, because I would always have the program in with having to log in to view it. That's,
yeah,
you know, generally from a security perspective, everything pretty much is under login.
Correct.
Otherwise,
Me
anyone
too.
can get that app.
Access
So
it. Yep.
I'm going to take that one on board for ones that I've got coming up to see whether or not, yeah.
But the problem is that the minute that you do that, it then turned off my agenda bit because it didn't require login. So then we had to go in and change settings for that, which is easy, but
yeah,
it's just like we didn't like the implications of that happening.
Yeah, the flow on. How interesting. Yeah, one for us definitely all to look out of, you know, over the next couple of months. I think more and more people will be going on site with the new app. Can I ask one more question on it? Were you using a native app, or did you use just the Events Air?
Just the Events Air app. Yeah. I'd have that kind of
I mean,
cash
it's
for
the
a
same
native
app, but it would just be interesting. But yeah, like, you know, submitting, it's the same app, but it's got its own icon.
Yes. No,
So,
I don't have the cash for that.
Yeah. They're great, but it's interesting. It's always interesting to see whether or not that makes
Fleur,
a
I'm happy to kind of give you my login as well, and you can have a play around with my app to have a look at have a look at it as well. I'll just give you my login.
I'd love to have a look at it if
Yeah.
you're open to that. I'd love
Yeah,
to.
of course.
That'd be awesome. I'm
Done.
certainly eyeing up your program with a little bit of envy. It looks beautiful.
Thank you.
The printable program, the golden, beautiful printable.
Oh yeah,
program.
because that was our thing, because you can't print the
Yeah, you
interactive
can't print the
one.
program.
Yep. So what I've just built a button that then just
Yep.
links off to the event info site,
I love that. I love that.
and
That's
it
what
solves the
I'm.
problem.
That's what I'm taking away from today. I love
And
that.
then I add another button as well. I didn't do it this year. I need to though, for the abstracts. If they want to have a look at the abstract books, I then just build an abstract book and I add in a button up the top.
Yeah. Awesome. That's so cool. Well, I think today's been great. I love this conversation. I get really excited.
I wanted to hear more from Sarah Cole though. Why did somebody have to email you right at that moment?
Why do you have a job, Sarah?
Right there. Event life.
Yeah, I was going to say that before. I was going to be like hashtag event life. Same for the Dior in the airport as well. Yeah.
Thanks, team.
Awesome.
It's been fun.
Thank you, everyone. We'll
Yeah,
how
so
about we do it all again next week?
Sure.
Let's do it.
Awesome.
If you guys think of a particular topic that you want to put as a hot topic, even email me in advance or something so we'd love that. You're really
It's always
encouraged. It doesn't have to
abstracts.
be
It's all I
doesn't
want
have
to
to
talk
be
about.
me talking at you. I knew it would be
Abstracts
abstract, so
part
that's
two.
why I thought I reckon that's going to be pretty high on everyone's list. But yeah, like it doesn't have to be me talking to everyone all the time. So just come with stuff. Love it.
And I know we talked about not necessarily promoting the idea of that being a competition, but I do feel there's something in there about the size of code for the next chat. We've got to sort of try and beat Sarah's efforts there. That was pretty
62.
epic.
62
Yeah.
pages.
62
Yeah, I don't think I'm
pages
going to
for
win that.
one task. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's my
I'm
time.
really proud of it. I called my husband in as well, and I'm like, look at this.
That's
62
so
A4
gorgeous.
pages. It's
Wow.
insane. And I was wondering why it was taking me so long to scroll. And then when I copied it into, and I was just like, what is this? I mean, Grant, if you know how to code properly, you're going to be disgusted by it. It's very rudimentary. Got some
Oh, it
HTML,
works.
it's got some CSS thrown in there. I'm not yet at the
It
Java
works.
level.
Right.
I'm in awe. We have ChatGPT for the Java level, I think.
Yeah.
I love it. So impressive. Brilliant. Oh, thanks so
Awesome.
much, guys. It's been awesome. I love being part of this community and connecting with everyone. It's fantastic.
Always good.
Love
Yeah.
it.
Have a
All
great
right.
Monday.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Roll,
See ya.
walk out.